let's take a minute to look at bobbin tensioning and threading. The bobbin is in the bobbin case right here, so I'm going to grab that. I'm going to just pull on that lever and pull straight out of the machine, and that will let me have both the bobbin case and the bobbin. And then I'm just going to dump that bobbin into my hand and pull the thread out of the bobbin case. Now I'm going to take a look at this. If it is less than half full, maybe a third full, depending on what kind of jobs I'm running, I may decide to throw this out. Bobbin tension is pretty important with embroidery, and it kind of varies as you run through a bobbin. The start of the bobbin is going to be a little bit different by the time you get done with it. Bobbins tend to weigh a little bit less as they empty, so that's where some of that comes from. What kind of bobbin should you use? I recommend a continuous filament polyester bobbin. The spun ones I'm not as much of a fan of. The other options you may run into, there are cardboard sided and plastic sided and ones with magnets, so you can kind of only get them in one way. That's up to you. I've run lots of different ones with success, some of them less so. Ones that I've had some trouble with, some of the sideless bobbins, the wax buildup on them can be a little bit rough. By the time that you're done, you've got a big chunk of wax, and it kind of varies by brand. So find one that works well for you. I do very well with the plastic sided ones. I've done well with cardboard ones. Now, some of the issues that I may have found with some of these, you can find ones that are overwound. So as they wind up, they get a little bit too big around, and when you put them in the bobbin case, they just pull really hard. Those you can ease through by just casting some off before you put them in, and then they work really well. I have had some that as they were overwound, instead of getting bigger around, they just got deeper. So if you put them in the bobbin case and you test them, they feel fine, but as soon as you put them in the machine, they're rubbing against both the back of the machine and the inside of the bobbin case, and then they don't pull. And if you don't have that thread pull, you can't pick up a stitch. It kind of locks it into place, and that can cause you issues too. So keep an eye on both of those. A couple of other issues I have had, I was trying a bobbin that was a plastic bobbin, and it was eccentric. The sides were just slightly off from the middle, and that caused me issue because as it would roll, one side would hit and then the other, and it wasn't centered, it wasn't perfectly circular, it was eccentric, and that is not how bobbins are supposed to work. So if you kind of cast off and you feel that in the bobbin case, just keep an eye on that. All right, so we have the bobbin out of the bobbin case. How do we clean the bobbin case? Because that's very important before you put a new one in and start testing it. The thread, as it's going through, it can build up lint underneath this spring, which can open that up, and it makes it feel like it has far less tension because the spring's not holding it. And then at some point, if you just tighten it instead of cleaning it out, that lint can go away, the spring can clamp down on your thread, and that can cause you issues. So let's get it clean first, and then we'll deal with some of the rest of this. So to clean the bobbin case, the bobbin's already out of it. I've pulled the bobbin out of the bobbin case, and now to clean the bobbin case, I'm going to look on the side here, and what you'll see is a long band of metal coming across the side, and that's what I'm looking for. That's the spring. That's what holds tension against that thread. So I'm going to slide the corner of a business card or a folded piece of paper under here and pull this across and see if I get any lint out of here. All right, so this is looking pretty good. Now I'm going to take just some canned air and blow this out. There we go. And now I'm ready to rethread my bobbin case. So when I do that, I'll take a new bobbin and I will cast some off. And then I hold it so that the thread comes over the top and around. So it makes like a number 9. Right? So it's just around this way. And then I'll hold the back of the bobbin case and I'll just slide this in. So now I'm holding it like a little cup. And then I'll tip this just so that I can see this slot on the side. There's that slot right there. Then I'll slide that thread through there. There we go. And then I'll slide it around and snap it into place right here in this spring. So once I have that done, I'm ready to test the tension in my bobbin case. I do not yet want to wind this through this pigtail. I want to leave it just through this spring. So how do I test and how do I adjust that tension? Well, to test it, I can use a drop test, so I can hold this bobbin thread and then it should just barely drop. And then if I bounce it, it should drop a decent amount, like 1 to 2 inches. Now, to adjust it, you'll want a small screwdriver out of your operator's kit. On the side of the bobbin case, there are 2 screws. There's a little bitty one here, right at the spring, and then there's one a little bit farther in that has a ring of raised metal. The one with the ring of raised metal, that's your adjustment screw. Righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, small adjustments make huge, huge changes in tension. This is a very tiny adjustment, maybe 1/8 of a turn. Once you adjust it, then you can test it again. Now, if the drop test, because this is going to change a little bit based on how full your bobbin is, how much your bobbin weighs, if you're using plastic or cardboard or sideless, that can all vary a little bit. If you want to be a little bit more sure of what you're doing, you can grab one of these, which is a bobbin tension gauge. To use the bobbin tension gauge, I'm just going to open this up, slide this bobbin tension gauge out. It has some instructions with it. And then I'm going to take this out of here and I will walk you through it. So I'm going to lay this out. When I'm using the gauge, I want to make sure that my thread is just through the spring and not through the pigtail. With the thread just through the spring, but not through the pigtail, I'm going to slide this into place. The pigtail is going to go to the left. This little piece of metal that sticks out, that's going to go up and lodge between these 2 pieces of metal, and I'm just going to snap it into place. And I'm going to pull this thread under this roller, above that roller, and then through this slot. And then I'm going to watch as I pull, and I'm going to watch my bobbin spin, and I'm going to have it just when it just starts to spin. And that's where I'm going to measure my tension. There we go. If you pull very, very quickly, it's going to look like it has much harder tension, much tighter tension than you really do. So I want to pull on it, watch when it just starts to turn, and that's what I'm looking for. If you need to tighten or loosen the tension, you actually have access to the tensioning screw from this side. So I can come in here, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey as needed. And then I can test again. So as I turned it right, you can see that the tension increased a little bit. Right now, I'm at the top edge of what I would want. So I'm going to go ahead and loosen that back up just a touch. Typically, I would like to see between 15 and 19, or in the range of this gauge, I want to look between 150 and 190, and that's I'm falling right in the middle of that. If I pull at the right speed. If I pull really fast, it's going to look really tight. So we're looking for 150 to 190. I'm right in the middle of that, so that's what I want. Once that's done, you can just press down on this thread, and there's a little blade in here so you can cut that thread. So as I pull this bobbin case out of the tension gauge, I want to make sure that I wind it through the pigtail before reinserting it into my machine. To wind it through the pigtail, all I'm going to do is take that bobbin thread and just come down and wind it around. I'm not going to try to thread it through. That's not worth it to me. You'll notice that I put the thread over the front of the case and put my thumb on it. I will then come back to my machine, insert it into place with my thumb on it, and then press until I hear that click. That's what I'm looking for. And then I'll trim this up to 2 to 3 inches. Too long, and it can wrap up into your machine. Too short, and it may not pick up. So 2 to 3 inches is the length I'm looking for that bobbin thread just to hang for the first few stitches of my design. If I insert my bobbin case with this lever pulled out, I'm not going to hear it click. I can't tell if it's in completely. So that's why when I do this, I leave my finger on it and press until I hear that click, and then I know it's in. One thing I should mention, I mentioned a range of 15 to 19 or 150 to 190 depending on the granularity of your gauge. That is for the machines with the needle plate trimmers and some of the older models. The models that were kind of in between those, they tend to run with a slightly higher tension. So if those are the case, you may need to adjust that based on what kind of machine you have.